the old Earth is crashing before our very eyes, and some huge and shocking changes are about to take place en route to new Earth and to a better tomorrow and a better future. So here's some psychic predictions for 2025. This video, psychic predictions for 2025. And some questions that come up is, will the Trump presidency end? And what about the AI takeover that's slated to take place? I also got things around the geology, the climate, political climate, what's going on in the world and the changes. But near the end, I've got some automatic writing. I did some channeling on, and these are messages on what's happening, why it's happening, and what we can do to not only stay safe, but to make a positive difference during this transition. So glasses go on because I mean business, and also it's all in my notes. In fact, a lot of this stuff, even when I was doing my notes, I went into kind of semi-channel automatic writing. I'm going to be reading my notes a lot, in other words. So the remote viewing, these are things that came through, and we're not in any particular order. We'll start out with Donald Trump because that was part of the title, and move into other topics, basically, and why September is the most important month of the year, basically based on numerology. So we'll explain that. So the first thing is just understand your predictions are just that, prediction. We can't really predict the future because people like myself will get images or feelings, visions, based on the present now and how that projects and plays out into the future. But if we change the energies of the now, we change how that plays out. So not all predictions from anybody is written in stone is going to verify to the letter, but most of it does, and that's because people generally don't change a lot. That's one of the reasons. But we can do that. And something else I wanted to say about that. So prophecy, one of the reasons that I do it and other people do it, because it provides a point of reference. It gives us an idea of what our energies are looking like, projecting into the future. If we don't like that, then it's up to us to change the energy in the present, starting with ourselves. And if we do, then to continue on the path we're going. So the idea is to be aware of possibilities, but to, again, change our vibration, change our frequency to change the outcomes, basically. To basically manifest the positive and soften or mitigate some of the inevitable wheels that have been set in motion that have to play out in the future, basically. What else? So if we continue to be emotionally and energetically unstable as a species, our future is going to reflect that, basically. So we need to do our spiritual work. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. So geology, climate geology, politics, and all that reflects what's going on in the collective. But if we rise up to compassion, gratitude, peace, the inevitable shaking of the earth shift, and the wheels that are already set in motion will be more short-lived, less severe, and will become more of an enlightened species and create more of an enlightened utopian society moving forward as a result. Smoother and easier, that's what we like. We can do this the easy way, we can do this the hard way. Let's do this the easy way and start to change our vibration now. So 2025 is a universal 9 year, and every year, the month of September is going to have the same universal numerology as the month does. So September this year is a universal 9 month also. 9 is a month of completion, but it's a lot of energy of change. It's Mars guided numerology. So 9 is a very, very powerful number, and it's the very pinnacle of the Tesla 369 code. And what that is basically the 3 and all of its multiples describe numerologically what forces or powers are driving changes in our society. So in other words, 0 is the void, 1's the manifestation, 2's the duality. That's all physical, but 3 and all of its multiples is the frequencies that affect those physical changes. So 9 is the very pinnacle because it's 3 times 3 or 3 cubed. So very, very powerful. You make a difference. Your energy is going to be stronger and it's going to manifest more quickly than ever. So choose positive thoughts and emotions when possible. And when you find yourself in less positive ones, try to shift that quickly. Vent whatever you need to vent and come back into your high vibes. And you're going to manifest some really amazing things. So anyway, getting to Donald Trump as promised. I was shown Trump remaining in office during this period, actually, but it's not easy, and there's a lot of hiccups, and there's a lot of exit points, to put it that way. Like I said, it's not written in stone. There's still something that can happen. The bottom line is when the collective is done with Donald Trump will be done with us, basically. But I'll explain more of what that means in a minute. So there are huge variables. Two separate timelines or possible scenarios have been shown. That the presidency ends in the next 2 to 3 months or the next 2 to 3 years. I really do not feel that he's going to make it through the full term. But from what I can predict or observe in that matter is that he's in very bad shape in a lot of ways. Whether you love him or hate him, we've got to acknowledge that there's some problems there. His health, his emotional health, you have stuff like that. Troubles in connection with a female have been shown. I'm not sure who that is, if that's his wife or somebody in the cabinet, but an accuser of some kind or another. Some new legality surface, so that gets more intense around him. Fallout from the Epstein files. Now, in my yearly forecast, I predicted that the Epstein files will probably only have a partial exposure, not till the month of September. So, honestly, I wasn't expecting anything to happen this soon anyway, and certainly they dropped a bombshell. It's like, oh, we have the files right on my desk. Oh, there are no files. That's drawing a lot of attention, but it may be smoke screens, it may be distraction. I'll explain a little bit about why I believe that in a minute. Health remains biggest concern. My vision of Trump in the hospital, you guys might remember that. I think that was in May. I saw him in the hospital. He was alive, but on a lot of equipment and motionless. And my conjectures, I think that happened already. I think that prediction verified, because there were like 3 days where he was virtually non-existent on social media meetings, and then when he came back, I noticed that he looked like he was uncomfortable and struggling. So I would not be surprised, because the news does not tell us things that the news does not want us to know. It's basically the mouthpiece of the deep state or the cabal. So it's meant to basically control the thinking and the movement of the masses, basically. But anyway, so that remains a concern. But that might, what I saw might have already happened, and then he'd be off the hook of like a major illness if that's the case. Third assassination attempt probably already happened, so that might be off the table also. It didn't really happen. It's just that some nut job, I think in Milwaukee, killed both his parents to fund weapons to kill the president, but it got nipped in the bud. But anyway, so I'm a little bit less concerned with an inside job of him being off that way, because of the fears that he might become a martyr and be more powerful. But my feeling is now, and it always has been, that he's in power because there's higher forces that want him in power, that politics and what goes on the world stage is largely a show, that perceived enemies are friends. And you see the famous picture of Obama and Trump looking like old fraternity brothers at Jimmy Carter's funeral. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Body language. So there's a lot of clues that things that happen behind the scenes, and countries that we may see of enemies or may be planning things with us. For example, I had a vision, it was a little while ago, but it's turned to this time where heads of state were meeting and generals from different armies, countries that were supposedly at war, but they were meeting and planning the wars, not trying to solve them. There's a vision. There's no way that I'll be able to be proven right or wrong in that, but I have a feeling I'm right, to be honest, from things that I've seen and things that are going on. And and things like when the Russia-Ukraine war started, they were already funding a long war. How did they know it was going to be a long war if they were already commissioning Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, for weapons deals and stuff? So, there's a lot that goes on. Stay in your heart, stay in your power. Don't get, distracted by these smoke screens, basically. So, I also see Donald Trump building alliances and agreements with different countries and maybe leveraging for some level of world control or something along those lines. I also see a Panama Canal agreement coming in. They're showing me around October, but that might be soon. That would benefit the U.S. A clause that can allow some of the illegals to remain under special provision. They may be given a different classification, basically. So some might, some may be that work for, say, like agriculture or others that are technically illegal, may be allowed to stay. Some people will view that as slave labor, but that's, I think I've seen some things on the news that kind of point to that potentiality anyways, within the last day or two, actually. So there's that. So there may be new provisions provided for them. I think some of them will just be sent home. I think it's a little bit messy. I think things are going to have to be cleaned up in that area. But yet still, I believe that the U.S. will hold firm on cracking down on illegal immigration, on frauds, Medicare, Medicaid fraud, all that kind of stuff. Basically, Speaking of which, the bill will still be a hot topic of debate and conjecture, so forth. So, what else? So I see one or two peace agreements signed, perhaps Russia, Ukraine. I'd say it could be later in the month. I think a little bit later in the year. Then Trump will receive credit for that. On and off with the ceasefire in the Middle East, new countries coming up. Syria popped up in my mind. Sudan popped up in my mind. A couple of countries in Africa. I forgot which ones. And maybe later on in my notes, showing that there's a political unrest and changes of governments that are happening in Africa, and a lot of leveraging, in order to have rights to, say, like rare earth minerals or things that go on in the African continent, basically. So anyway, Donald Trump in power so finally, so basically, I think I mentioned that there's a real chance that he could come under a lot of fire in the next couple of months. His mental and emotional stability gets challenged, his physical health, his policies, his legalities, and it's very possible that there may be movement towards impeachment by the end of August. Originally, I saw July into August as the time he could be removed. Could still happen. I think things are trending a little bit later in the timelines, but these things come up on the table, so it could go either way. But my official prediction remains that he remains in office. But I say that with not a heck of a lot of confidence, and part of me feels like it's going to happen sooner. So again, we shall see. I think because I care, it's harder to get messages from spirit. We have to be completely in our hearts, like completely out of our egos, to really get accurate psychic information. So the more you care about something, the harder it is. But anyway, that's beside the point. So Donald Trump in power is a lesson to humanity and a catalyst for growth and change. He's reflective of our collective that's getting externalized in our experience for us to awaken and grow. So the bottom line is he'll stay in power until humanity evolves and his job is complete. Whether you believe that he is the corruption and that's how it's getting exposed, or if he's on the sacred mission to expose it, whatever the belief, that's part of the purpose that he's on. He's the coyote, the trickster that tricks people into learning, the bringer of chaos that tears everything down to bring new order. And it has to happen in order for it to get better and in order for it to change, basically. In the end, Trump is a coyote. All right, so he said that. I think I said all of this. So let me move on. So gradual global shift or leaning towards the left. So in the world politics, like we've had recent leaning towards the right lately, I think it's going to go back to leaning towards the left, and not really just here in the U.S., but around the world in general. England, France highlighted in general some new agreements, alliances that could involve the U.S. are possible. In general, deep corruption comes out in multiple governments, partial Epstein lists of September, but understand that may be distractions. And when you're distracted by one thing, then they're able to, behind the smoke screens, push forth other agendas like AI takeover and stuff like that. And I'll talk more about that in a bit. So for scenarios, there's another scenario where Donald Trump steps down but still remains in power behind the scenes also. And then I guess Vance would be the president. So the Middle East crisis, lots of airstrikes, peaking or picking up again around November. Russia, Ukraine gets solved by year's end, at least to some degree, I believe. See what happens in August, particularly, because I think some positive movement there. I'm also seeing more of a moderate leader or voice coming from Russia, maybe Ukraine, but I think Russia, which puts a question mark around Putin's future or how that's going to go on. New countries in global conflict by year's end. By November, the year's definitely going to go out with a bang. So I think we're going to see a lot of conflict building. November, September into January, big months energetically. Japan gets highlighted also, gets more involved in global conflicts, gains more power or greater say over things going on in the world. So I think Japan's getting more vocal in what's going on. To my understanding, they've kind of remained more or less neutral. They've had their own issues that they've been dealing with. But there could be new financial markets proposed, new leadership towards August. That's around the world, but I think Japan's going to be a big hub in some of the economic changes and reforms, I want to say. Also showing lots of water, subject to big floods, tsunamis, and we predicted for July, major floods around the world like we've never seen. I've mentioned that in a couple of forecasts. Unfortunately, it's happening. And you also see big issues around the Philippines, which could also be political change. And also, weather events like big, typhoons, tsunamis, that kind of thing in that area. Indonesia, big volcanoes. Basically, we predicted that, and then it happened recently with Indonesia. There's a new eruption, and there's just a 6.7 earthquake in Indonesia today. I'm filming on the 14th. That's happening. Also, I see the New Madrid fault starting to get active. Watch out towards around October with that, but timing is it's very hard, if not impossible, to predict exactly when and where the geological activity will happen. We just know there's more energy being fed into the system, so there's a science and intuition, and we know that there's more energetic shifting happening within collective consciousness, both of which affect the Earth and affect seismic activity. So it's going up, it's increasing. And we are moving right along. Also, the Antarctica has been highlighted. So I think there may be an earthquake or things discovered there. What's the Cascadia Fault, the San Andreas, the usual players off of New Zealand, that fault line. So basically, again, it's hard to predict. They show me around the maybe it's the agency that gets a lot of earthquakes or more activity around Italy and Southern Europe in that area. I also feel like Germany's going to have a lot of strife and a lot of protests. A lot of protests around the world, a lot of civil unrest in different countries. England's especially hard hit, but the European Union in general, America too. A lot of countries are going to be really pushing back, and we're seeing a lot of free speech rights being whittled away in different countries and people being arrested for just peaceful demonstrations. So there's a lot of the authorities stepping in and using force at times to try to quell demonstration. So, we all have a voice, and think about the suffrage movement in the 20s. Enough people stood up, they challenged the status quo, things changed. So don't let that be a deterrent to speaking up and expressing your voice and what you want to see in the world also. So let's see what else in my notes here. Russia-Ukraine vision. I had a vision. First, the missiles. So I think problems are escalating or will be if that's not happening already. Then the peace talks. Not out of the question that they come to the table around August. So we'll see. I may be rushing it a little bit, but we'll see. And Canada remains mostly sovereign and deals U.S. some kind of a blow. I don't know if that's around automobiles or oil or something like that. But a lot of pressure against Trump increasing. But new controversy stirs up within Canada, increased tension and demonstrations, and increased displeasure over the current government around there. And also in Australia, that and they're talking about strange climate analogies in that part of the world. I mean, all over the world, but the southern hemisphere in general, I want to say. There could be some revolutionary activities in general, globally, pushback against rulership. Australia, world at large, leads to freedom of speech violations, oppressions, and battles and stuff like that. Several countries undergo civil unrest, okay. And this is part of the systems of the world collapsing, by the way. And that's what's happening is there's a systems collapse, the unsustainable's falling, and then we're going to build new earth on the more sustainable foundations of compassion, love, and working together with the people for the betterment of all, basically. So several countries, all right, lots of change around UK, Europe, European Union demonstrations, arrests. All right, we mentioned all that. Also, new technologies, AI, the AI takeover, the Stargate agenda highlighted. That was, Donald Trump very early on signed that into law, I believe, and raised $500 billion to fund it. That's the AI network. That's the mRNA vaccines for cancer and other things. And building this network that's going to really slated to run society, basically, and that has the potential to cut back on our freedoms and to create more reconnaissance of the public, basically. So one of the interesting things, being a meteorology major, is I was seeing new forecasting technology that can involve AI, increase global AI network, and a new wave atmospheric mapping promising to be more accurate forecasts. And here's where the game or the technology comes in. So listen to this part carefully. So basically right now, it's all a grid system. I think they're starting to incorporate infrared and other technology to get a more complete mapping of the atmosphere, but the computer programs that forecast the weather, basically, we get measurements at grid points, and it's fed into the programs, and they come up with a forecast, but it's incomplete because it's only on a grid level. So what if they come up with a way that they can map out the entire atmosphere using AI, which may compromise our freedoms further or introduce more microwave and high-end radio wave EMFs into our Earth fields, with the promise that a disaster like Texas will never happen again. And what if? It's a big what if, but what if the cuts to certain agencies were done for a different reason than just saving money? Because what's happened, this thing happened in Texas. Everybody, especially people that are more left-leaning, were up in arms saying this wouldn't have happened if they were properly staffed. Now, I have to say, as a trained meteorologist and having knowledge of what goes on with weather forecasting, personally, my opinion, I don't think it would have made a difference, but still, cuts to essential services are not good, right? But anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. So what if this was all planned ahead of time? Because it also understand that there is evidence, nothing that I would say is proven, but there's evidence that there was geoengineering, maybe cloud seeding to enhance the precipitation of that event. And yes, natural phenomena could explain it. It's happened before, it's happened again. But what if that was all planned and unfortunately people died, children died, God bless them. Unfortunately, all that happened. But what if, we'll see what happens. The next thing is, we have this new technology, but you're going to have to open your home, or you're going to have to allow this to happen, and the other things. Keep an eye on that. Let me see what I write in my notes. And it's not just Texas, it's other places, but with severe weather events, cuts to staff can cause fear and panic, make people more willing to surrender their rights and privacy, basically. So not necessarily just saying, what if we see in other areas of society similar patterns evolving, and the end result is that the rights get taken away, that they build the AI, that it becomes an AI takeover where technology starts to control more and more aspects of our society, and then we lose our rights. There's more, again, surveillance and all that stuff against us. So AI networks, let me see what else. So AI networks, mRNA vaccines are moving forward, slated to take over. Okay, so smart meters, for example, can track your movements. If you have a smart meter, the electric company knows when devices are on and when they're not, so they can know when you're home or not also, and they may not be able to know what devices you're on and perhaps what you're even doing on those devices as it gets more sophisticated. I don't think that's the case now. So anyway, it's building. The AI is taking over. It's going to take over jobs, going to change industries, going to change our society. There's some positives that can come out of it, but as long as the structures of society ruled by those powers that thrive on greed and power over others are in charge of it, it's not going to be used for good, at least for the most part, basically. Epstein and other things can serve as distractions also while systems are being built to whittle away at the freedom. So where everybody's just focusing on the Epstein list, what's going on that's just not the headlines on the news, but the fine print that's actually more important, that's going to affect our lives a heck of a lot more than whether or not the Epstein list, gets exposed. So anyway, so AI generated virtual reality, things like that can simulate spiritual experiences. So there's always been, since I had my first awakening in 1978, it's gone strong. There's always been a lot of programming, a lot of attacks against spiritual growth and evolution, because as humanity awakened, the plans of those that want to control everything is not going to work. So humanity awakening would be their worst nightmare, basically. Their plans wouldn't go into effect and they would fall. So there's a lot going on. So be aware of the technology increases harmful EMFs and attempt to further separate you from your own divinity to become weaker and more easily controlled. And then we see some things like changes of tax law, maybe changes in the IRS. I don't think it's getting abolished this year, but we could see changes in that and stuff like that. Centralizations in currencies as well. Major systems getting hacked during this period, the 6-month period, like defense systems, financial, government, and and then the staff cuts in sensitive areas like the oh God, what's the right word? I need water. Like cybersecurity, national cybersecurity getting cut, that gets more scrutinized. And they invoke the fear and panic. Like, oh my God, that got hacked. What if my bank account gets hacked? I better let them do this to keep track of things, to keep track of my account. Meanwhile, if AI is in your bank account, they can use that to draw out of your bank account also. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to do it, but just to keep it in perspective, there's two sides of that. Also got the sense of, what else? Staff cuts sensitive areas, more scrutinized, and they invoke fear plan to further implement Project 2025, which is being implemented, and the 2030 agenda to create greater control using sophisticated technology. And there's 2 new generations of AI that are going to be coming out in the next few years. So new pandemic, news towards autumn. Elon Musk continues to push back, stirs up new controversy. But since this is already getting quite long, I'll save anything. If things come up around him, I'll do a separate video on that. After some crashes and resetting, economy can get stronger toward autumn. New systems of currency, changes to World Bank I see happening around this time. Shifts in the balance of global finance in which financial groups dominate can happen. Like for example, is it more like the Group of Seven or the BRICS Plus nation or the World Economic Forum having the greater say? Those kind of things kind of change power. So the financial structure moves towards more centralization, more control, and that could involve like new currencies, maybe digital currencies, new ways of tracking transactions, again, using the AI infrastructures and so forth and so on. Silver metals continue to rise. That's always a good investment. And it looks like changes. All right, I said that already. So new year, near the end, could see increased volatility or a crash. So the state exploits the fears and leverages more control. So I think, like I said, I think July, it's gone down a little bit. And, with the tariffs, they're used for leverage mostly to create an effect in the society, a ripple effect. I mentioned this at the very beginning. We've seen it in action. I'm not going to harp on it again, but just to understand that these are tools for leverage and maybe possibly that to help the national economy. But this is giving the benefit of the doubt, to be quite honest with you. So anyways, big upsurge in UFO. Like, we may start to feel extraterrestrial contacts more. Telepathically, we may see more signs of it, more sky anomalies, things like that. More sightings, more crop circles, all these things. So we're going to get, I think, a new wave of extraterrestrial activity in August is primed, and then moving forward from that. A lot of Sasquatch sightings increase, or other mythical creatures, a lot of dragons, a lot of dragon energy too. Crop circles, amazing discoveries. The model of the universe is changing as they discover more. So we see new models of the universe, lots of new discoveries, very exciting times. Technologies, medicines, all this kind of stuff that can really upgrade humanity, can really add to our knowledge base and assist us in our awakening, but it can also be leveraged to thwart or block our collective awakening. So anyway, what else? Yeah, big shifts in the climate that are unexpected. They go beyond any of the known markers for global warming, like water, carbon dioxide, methane. And things like the increase of microwave in the system with the NexRad, the new Doppler radars, which are great for detecting storms, but they do lay a low level EMF frequency that's microwave and high frequency radio waves. You see more of that. And again, the smart meters, stronger Wi-Fi, stronger cell signals, and these microwaves. The way your microwave oven, if you're still using one, that is, cooks your food, it excites the water molecules. So this low level of microwave is enhancing the energy of the water, which changes the climate. It changes the weather. It creates more moisture, more cloud, more electricity, especially with all these satellites, that technology, and then they burn, and there's more metals in the atmosphere. There's a lot going on, and the burning more fossil fuels also increases H2O, even more than CO2 in the atmosphere. That increases volatility of weather, that heats up the planet also. So a lot of these things are happening as well. So that's worth mentioning, that I think we're going to hear more and more about that as time goes on, basically. So what am I forgetting? Big shifts in climate. All right. I know I'm forgetting something. So there's actually a lot more detail in the month-by-month psychic forecast, where I go into more detail and share more precise and specific visions with you, as well as the seasonal forecast. But I wanted to get to this channel message before I end. So before I do this, if you're enjoying this, please like the video. Let's share this. Comment your thoughts, please. And if you enjoyed this content, subscribe to the channel and more of our videos will come up on your home page. So anyway, the channel message is to automatic writing. So it's a little bit messy. Be the observer. Don't buy into fear. This is lower vibrations being leveled against humanity to block the awakening, but is actually a big part of your collective awakening as you rise in power to squash awakening as you rise in power to squash internal expression expressed in your Maya matrix 3D. Take your pick. Does that even make sense? So things that block the awakening as you are rising in your power, it's trying to prevent it. So to squash your internal expression. Okay, I get it now. Everything. Okay. Every time you feel the fear, the anger, the rage, the dread rise up, catch yourself and choose to be grateful. By all means, feel what you're feeling, but then make another choice and go more into compassion, gratitude, and peace instead. And if you do this repetitively, it becomes a habit. Then over time, it becomes a healthy subconscious program where you're not as triggered by what's going on the outside. You can stay in your power and not lose your connection to the divine, because all these lower emotions sever the connection to your higher self and make you more vulnerable to control, basically. So it lets you to be immune to the negative programming. Add positivity to the collective to help humanity to ascend in its power. Feel grateful for the rebirth, the amazing things about to take shape as humanity awakens. Your collective transcendence to the next world. Excuse me, I think I need water. Excusez-moi. We are live and uncut. Well, not live, but we're uncut. Filming live. So it's still, all right. So you awaken. You collectively, you transcend to the next world, the next level of human evolution. But it is still part of the Maya, or the matrix or the illusion that you're ascending to, just a higher level thereof. And this is important to understand. I didn't even know this until I channeled this. A quantum leap positioning you to there's a quantum leap happening, or it's happened, that's positioned you to transcend all illusion and step into your interdimensional spiritual body. So this is the transitional stage that we're ascending to. At this level, you begin to perceive the truth interacting with the illusion, which inspires humans to create greater things, higher realities that bridge the gaps between the seen and unseen ascended worlds. The true world, the ascended spiritual world, where love rules and the lower entities and powers that feed on negative human emotions, gets revealed and must take a step back. This is the transition point where this year is leading, where old earth has to fall. You reach this transitional place for purification, edification, to reach the higher dimensions, to blend with the physical domain, create a utopian dream world from your moldable 3D world of clay. For everything in the 3D, the matrix, is a reflection of personal and collective consciousness. That is how you learn and grow in this domain. And the process of integrating these higher realities into the earth sphere allows you to evolve into the truth of your own being. So to paraphrase that, because I don't know if it was clear, the elevation that we're in now in humanity is not a shift to the 3D, to the 5D. That's not what it is. It's kind of a blending. It's not 4D either. It's kind of a blending that 5D into your 3D reality. So it's still part of the matrix on one hand, but you're starting to connect with the higher realities that created it. So at that place, you can start to bring these higher energies into the physical and start to develop superhuman gifts like healing things that doctors can't heal, higher intuition, more connection to spirit, God, or source, more ability to understand energies and frequencies, all that stuff. And then through that blending of the 3D and the 5D, then you're able to step into that ultimate 5D reality as an enlightened master. You're like Jesus and the enlightened beings that have gone the earth. So hopefully that made sense to you. But in any event, here's where our summer psychic forecast is, where I go into more details, share specific visions and more specific things here. And here we have a group meditation to send energy to the collective, to raise the collective. We did it on 7/7. It's augmented with frequency from the master teachers. Do it anytime you'll join our collective and send lots of peace, love, and hope to the collective to make a positive difference. Thank you.